Okay, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Just picture yourself standing in the middle of this dense, overgrown lot. You're in Clark, Pampanga.
Hmm.
And it is the middle of the night, but not, a nice, clear, starry night.
Yeah.
We're talking about a heavy tropical downpour.
Oh, yeah, the kind you can feel in your bones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The kind where the rain is hitting the pavement so hard it sounds like static.
Yeah.
And the wind is just howling, whipping this tall Kogon grass all around your ankles.
Right.
And right there, looming in front of you, is this massive concrete structure. It's dark, it's silent, except for the storm. There are no security guards. There are no keep out signs that, anyone's paying attention to.
It's a very specific kind of desolation, isn't it? I mean, it's not just empty. It feels, it feels abandoned.
Abandoned, that's the word. And that's actually one of the first things that really struck me, the stack of sources we're looking at today. We've got this transcript from an urban explorer YouTuber. He's called the Hungry Syrian Wanderer. And he's standing in front of this exact place, the abandoned Clark Air Base Hospital. And he says something that just perfectly sets the tone. He just says, "Oh, I forgot there's no guard."
Huh. Just like that.
Just like that. It's just open. A gaping mouth of a building, just sort of waiting for you to walk in.
And that openness is, in a way, terrifying. It implies that whatever's inside isn't worth protecting anymore. Or maybe what's inside is something people are actually afraid to go near.
Right. So you walk in,
Right.
and the air, it just changes. It gets heavy. The walls are peeling. I mean, literally shedding layers of paint like dead skin. You see rebar poking out like broken ribs.
Wow.
And you're walking through what used to be this bustling hospital, a place of science, of healing, of order. But now it's just silence, layers of graffiti, and this occasional sound that just makes your skin crawl. Is it a frog? Is it a broken clock ticking in a wall somewhere?
Right.
Or is it something else?
You are definitely setting the scene for a horror movie. But what I love about this particular deep dive is that we aren't reviewing a horror movie. We aren't even really reviewing a ghost story, though. I mean, there are plenty of those in the stack. We're looking at the physical reality of the Filipino healthcare system.
Which feels like a hard pivot, I know. It really does. But stay with me, because today we are trying to do something a little different. We have a massive, and I mean a massive, stack of sources.
Quite a mix.
It is. We've got these transcripts from urbexers, crawling through haunted hospitals. But right next to them, we have historical documents that go all the way back to the Spanish colonial era in the 1500s.
Right.
We have high-level financing strategies from the Department of Health for the years 2023 to 2028. And we have these, frankly, alarming reports on nurse migration.
It looks like a complete mess of a stack, honestly. You've got ghost hunters on one side and, government accountants on the other. But the mission today is to synthesize them.
Exactly.
We want to try and understand the soul of this system.
The soul of the system. I love that. Because when you really look at the data, you have to ask, how did this country go from, friars washing the feet of lepers in 1578 to a system that is currently exporting 25% of the world's international nurses, all while leaving its own hospitals? Some of them brand new, some of them these ancient ruins, completely understaffed.
That's the core contradiction, isn't it? We are looking at the ghost of the past, those bloodstained walls in Clark, the rumors of spirits, and we're contrasting it with the crisis of the present.
And the crisis isn't supernatural.
No, not at all. It's structural. It's the struggle for universal health care and this massive, massive brain drain.
So, in a way, we're trying to connect the dots between the infrastructure that failed, the ruins, and the financing strategies of the future that are trying to stop the whole system from collapsing on itself.
Precisely. We are asking, are we building a future or are we just creating more potential ruins?
We'll grab your flashlights, maybe put on a hoodie, and we'll explain why that's a tactical choice later, and let's unpack this.
Let's dive in.
I really want to start way back. I'm a history nerd, you know that about me. And I was genuinely surprised to learn just how far back the organized hospital system goes in the Philippines. I sort of assumed it started with the Americans in the 1900s, but no, we're talking Spanish era, late 1500s.
Oh, much, much earlier than the Americans. The Spanish colonial government, they established the concept of the hospital almost immediately after they arrived. I mean, you have the Hospital Real de Manila established in 1577.
1577, that's Shakespeare's era. That's ancient.
It is. And if you look at the founding charter, it tells you everything you need to know about the priorities of the time. It was founded by Governor Francisco de Sande.
Okay.
But who was it for? That's the key question. It wasn't for the locals. It wasn't for the Indios. It was for Spanish soldiers.
So it was military infrastructure, basically.
100% yes. It was about the maintenance of the colonial force. You have to keep your soldiers healthy if you want to hold the territory. Now, eventually, it did open up to civilians, but that initial drive was purely strategic, not humanitarian.
But then, literally a year later, the script just completely flips.
Hmm.
You get the San Lazaro Hospital in 1578, and this one wasn't for soldiers.
No, and this is such a pivotal moment in the soul of the system, as we were saying. San Lazaro was founded by a friar, Brother Juan Clemente. It wasn't a general hospital. It was a specialty facility from day one.
Specialty in what?
It was built exclusively for patients with leprosy.
Leprosy. Wow, that's a heavy start.
It is, but think about what that implies. The governor builds a hospital for its soldiers. The church, the friar, builds a hospital for the outcasts.
Ah,
This sets a massive precedent in the Philippines. The idea that care for the poor or the sickest of the sick is a religious or charitable duty, not necessarily a state obligation.
that's a really interesting distinction to make so early on.
Yeah.
It created a culture where you rely on the goodness of an order, of an institution, rather than the rights you have as a citizen.
Exactly. And that thread, you can trace it through centuries. I mean, even today, there is a deep cultural reliance on charity, on malasakit, this idea of compassionate care, which is beautiful culturally,
Right.
but it can be really problematic structurally if it's used as a substitute for proper government funding.
It's also just wild to me that San Lazaro is still a major name today. If you have an infectious disease in Manila, that's where you go. It traces a direct, unbroken line all the way back to 1578.
That continuity is pretty rare, though. As we're going to see later, continuity is usually the exception, not the rule. But yes, the religious orders were absolutely the backbone. In 1586, you get another one. The Hospital de Indio, founded by the Franciscan order.
And I caught the funding model in the notes for that one. It just says it was supported by alms and contributions.
There it is again. Charity-based care, not a tax-based system. It was all about benevolence. The community and the church supported the health of the Indios, the native population.
They even had something that sounded almost like a spa. The Hospital de Aguasantas in Laguna, founded in 1590. Holy waters.
Which would be fascinating because it shows they weren't just, praying over people. They were actively using medicinal springs. It was an early sort of proto-understanding of environmental health.
Right, hydrotherapy.
Exactly. But if we fast forward a few hundred years, the whole nature of care changes dramatically. It moves from the friars in their robes to the revolutionaries in rags.
This is my favorite part of the historical stack. It really is. When we talk about the history of nursing, the global default is always Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp.
Mm-hmm.
The Philippines has this incredibly intense, bloody history of revolutionary nursing that I feel like nobody talks about.
It is absolutely overlooked. The cultural DNA of the Filipino nurse, that resilience, that sort of grit that we praise today, it isn't just about a good bedside manner. It was forged in war.
Right.
During the Philippine Revolution against Spain and then later the war against America, nursing was an act of rebellion.
We have to talk about Josephine Bracken,
Yeah.
Jose Rizal's wife.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a tragic figure.
Incredibly tragic. But just look at what she did. After Rizal was executed, she didn't just flee the country right away. No, she went to the rebel territory. She personally installed a field hospital in Tijeros.
A field hospital.
And the records we have say she cared for the wounded night and day.
She was right there in the mud. I mean, can you imagine?
She was on the front lines. She wasn't in some sterile white building in the city. She was likely in a nipa hut or a tent, dealing with horrible gunshot wounds, infections with almost no supplies. That is the archetype.
And then, of course, there's Tanding Sora, Melchora Aquino, the mother of the revolution.
The ultimate Inage mother figure. She wasn't a trained medical professional in our modern sense of the word. She didn't have a degree from a university.
No.
But she is the archetype of the community caretaker. She provided shelter, food, and she nursed wounded Katipuneros in her own backyard.
It really represents that safety net, right? When the official structures, the Spanish hospitals, won't help you because you're a rebel. Who helps you? The grandmother down the street.
The community. That is the safety net when the state fails. And we see that pattern repeated today. When the hospital is too expensive or it's too far away, people turn to their community.
I also love the stories of the warrior nurses. Trinidad Texan, she was called Ina ng Biak na Bato. She was staying in caves to care for soldiers.
Cave.
And Agueda Cahabagan, who was a general. a revolutionary leader in Laguna who would literally lead troops into battle and then turn around and nurse them afterwards.
Right. Let's talk about a double shift. But all of this, it contextualizes the modern phenomenon so well. When we see Filipino nurses working in conflict zones today, in the Middle East, in disaster areas, or just handling the absolute toughest shifts in hospitals in London or New York,
Yeah.
it's not coming from nowhere. It's a legacy of what you could call heroic care. Nursing was revolutionary work. It was grit.
So we have the friars, we have the revolutionaries. Then the Americans come in the early 1900s, and that's when we see the shift to what we would recognize as a more modern system.
Right. The Americans brought the institution. They brought the public health model. You get the Iloilo Mission Hospital in 1906, run by the Baptists. That's actually the first nursing school mentioned in our sources.
Okay, so education starts to get formalized.
It does. Then you get the Philippine General Hospital, PGH, their School of Nursing in 1907.
PGH. The big one. Still the big one.
Supported by the Governor General Forbes, this was the state asserting itself. We will build the big concrete building. We will train people in a systematic way.
And St. Luke's also in 1907, which it started as just a small dispensary. It's kind of wild to think of St. Luke's now, this massive world-class medical complex starting as a little wooden dispensary.
It reflects the rapid institutionalization of that whole era. By the late 40s, after the war, you have the first real colleges of nursing, UST, Manila Central University, UP College of Nursing, with Julita Soteo as the first dean. The structure was being built. The foundations were strong, concrete and curriculum.
Which brings us to the haunting question. If the foundations were so strong, if we had this history of friars and heroes in these big American institutions, why are the ruins so spooky? Why do we have so many of these abandoned medical facilities?
That is the pivot point, because institutions, they're fragile things. They require maintenance. They require funding. And when history shifts, when a military base closes or a budget is cut or a town's economy dies, the concrete remains, but the life leaves.
Okay, let's step away from the history books now and open up these Rebec's transcripts. We're going back to Clark. And for those who don't know, Clark was a massive U.S. air base. It had absolutely top-tier infrastructure. The hospital there was state-of-the-art for its time.
The best in the region, easily.
And now.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the Hungry Syrian Wanderer transcript again.
Okay.
He walks in. It's pouring rain. He's wearing a hoodie. And he makes this joke. He says, I just wear this to prevent the ghosts from touching me.
It's a moment of humor, but it reveals this genuine, almost primal discomfort. These places feel heavy. That word comes up over and over again in the transcripts. It feels heavy, to be honest.
What is that heaviness? Is it purely psychological?
I think it is. It's cognitive dissonance.
Right.
A hospital is supposed to be a place of supreme order. It's supposed to be sterile, bright lights, schedules, beeping machines.
Right.
When you see a hospital that is dark, chaotic, covered in graffiti, and being reclaimed by nature, it breaks your brain a little bit. It's the corpse of order.
The corpse of order. Wow. That's a terrifying way to put it. And the physical details he describes, they totally support that. Collapsed walls, holes in the floor that just drop down 2 or 3 stories. He finds a room that the graffiti on the wall labels the suicide room.
Which I'm guessing was not the official designation on the original blueprint.
Probably not. But then he finds the actual mental hospital department and the artifacts left behind. This is what gets me. He finds these writings on the wall. One is dated 1988 or 1990 so. Right around when the base was closing. And it says, beware of ghosts.
Wow.
And then right next to it, more recent graffiti from 2019.
It's like a dialogue across time. Different generations of trespassers are leaving messages warning each other. It creates a mythology for the place.
And the blood, or, blood, they found what they called blood units, or just these big stains on the floor.
Now be honest, do you really think it was blood?
Probably not. It was probably rust, or red paint, or maybe beetle nut spit, But in that environment, with the wind howling, your brain doesn't say rust. Your brain screams blood.
Exactly. It triggers the predator detection system in our brains. It's instinct.
Yeah.
And then there's the sound. The transcript mentions this eerie, repetitive sound.
Yes.
And they debate it. Is it a clock ticking? Or is it a frog croaking?
A clock or a frog? That is the sound of abandonment right there. If it's a clock, it's a machine that doesn't know it's dead yet. If it's a frog, it's nature eating the machine.
That's very poetic and very scary. But the basement is the kicker. They called it Ninja 101 because you have to literally crawl on your belly to get inside.
Why on earth would you do that?
Adrenaline, curiosity, I don't know. But he describes low ceilings, spiders everywhere, the smell of damp earth, and then they start speculating about dead bodies being stored there.
Of course they do.
It plays into every single trope of the haunted hospital. But what's interesting is that clock isn't the only one. We also looked at the old Calipandian hospital.
This was a private hospital, right? Abandoned for something like 60 years.
Yes. And this one offers a different kind of haunting. It's less military, more of a community ruin. The source describes the graffiti there, but it's not just beware of ghosts. It's almost an art gallery.
Right.
There was literally a graffiti contest held inside the ruins.
That stood out to me so much. This idea of street art mixing with decay.
Yeah.
You have a mural of Edelweiss, which is this delicate flower, and a freedom wall right next to what look like bullet holes.
The bullet holes are a stark contrast. The rumors say it was used as a shooting range after it closed. Again, the repurposing of a place of healing into a place of violence. It's a recurring theme.
And the comfort room dilemma. This was the most relatable part of the transcript for me. The explorer absolutely refuses to enter the bathroom. The CR alone.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the heavy vibe.
The bathroom is universal, isn't it? Even in a functioning building, a bathroom can be creepy. In an abandoned hospital, it's the vulnerability. You're alone, you're enclosed. It's where the ghost is supposed to be.
But I think the most significant ghost story in our whole stack isn't a hospital at all. It's the Manila Film Center. Now, this might feel like a detour, but our notes say this is crucial for understanding the whole haunted edifice theme.
It is absolutely crucial. This isn't just a ghost story, it's a political allegory. This was November 17th, 1981. This is the Marcos regime. And they were rushing to build the Manila Film Center for an upcoming international film festival.
Right.
It was part of what people call the edifice complex, building these massive, brutalist structures to project power and modernity.
And they were on a very strict deadline. The festival was starting in January. They had to finish no matter what.
And that haste led to absolute horror. The scaffolding collapsed around 3 in the morning, and a wet cement just poured down on the workers who were on the lower levels.
These death toll estimates are all over the place.
Yeah.
Some reports say 7, some say as many as 169.
And that variance, that uncertainty, is part of the horror. It shows the suppression of information at the time. But the legend that persisted, and we have to be very clear, this is the urban legend, though many, many people believe it,
Right.
is that because of that tight deadline, the rescue operation was halted. And they just poured more cement over the bodies.
The idea that the show had to go on, literally building the foundation of this glamorous film center on top of the workers.
It's chilling. Betty Benitez, who was involved in the project, she later had a fatal accident that was widely attributed to the 169 spirits. But why do we tell this story? Why does almost every Filipino know it?
It feels like a warning.
It is. It represents unfinished business.
Yeah.
It represents grand ambitions, whether it's a film center or a massive hospital complex, that were built at a human cost and then were just tainted. The ghosts aren't just spirits. They are memories of systemic failure. They are the guilt of the nation embodied in a building.
That is such a powerful connection. The abandoned hospital isn't just scary because it's dark and there are spiders. It's scary because it represents a broken promise. We were supposed to heal people here and we left.
Exactly. It's a monument to discontinuity.
Which brings us, I think, to the broken promises of the present. We are leaving the ruins now. Wipe the spider webs off your shoulders. We are looking at the hard data of 2025. We talked about the heroic nurses of the revolution. What is the situation for the nurse today?
It is a situation defined by one phrase that, it flashes in neon lights over the entire healthcare sector. Brain drain.
We hear that term all the time. Brain drain. It almost loses its meaning. But the numbers here are just staggering. The Philippines is the world's leading exporter of nurses. 25% of the world's international nurses come from the Philippines.
Think about that for a second. 1/4 of the nurses working abroad, filling the gaps in the NHS in the UK, in hospitals in California, in Saudi Arabia, are Filipino. That is a massive contribution to global health.
But it comes at a terrible, terrible domestic cost. It's like we're exporting our own immune system.
That is a brilliant analogy. We are exporting the immune system. The data shows a shortage of 127,000 nurses right now in the Philippines.
Right now.
And the Department of Health projects that could rise to 250,000 by 2030.
And what does that shortage look like on the ground? It's not just an empty desk in an office.
No, it looks like dangerous ratios. The ideal Department of Health ratio is 1 nurse for every 12 patients, 1.12. That's manageable. You can check vitals, you can administer meds, you can actually talk to the patient and see how they're doing.
And what's the reality?
The reality is more like 1.20, and in some public hospitals in rural areas, the sources say it can be 1.50.
1 to 50. Wait, just stop there. How is that physically possible? If you spend even 2 minutes with each patient, that's almost 2 hours just to do one round.
It's not nursing. It's crowd control. It's triage. You are just running from one emergency to another. You aren't caring. You are putting out fires. It is so dangerous for the patient, obviously, because things get missed, but it is psychologically destroying for the nurses. Burnout isn't even the right word. It's moral injury.
And yet, they leave. And the reason is crystal clear in the sources. It's the money.
It's always the money. The salary disparity is just massive. An average nurse salary in the Philippines, based on our source data, is around 163,000 pesos per year.
Per year. That's what, like 13,000 or 14,000 pesos a month? That is barely a living wage in Manila. You can honestly make more working in a call center.
Often, yes. You compare that to a physician at around 483,000, which is still low by international standards, but the nurse salary is, in many urban areas, basically a poverty-level wage.
Yeah.
And then you compare it to what a nurse can make in the US or the UK, which might be 20, 30, even 50 times that amount.
It's not really a choice, is it, if you have a family to feed?
Yeah.
If you have kids to send to school?
It's not. It's an economic necessity. We have built a system that is training nurses for export. It's an industry. The nursing schools are, in effect, factories for the global market, and the local system is left with the scraps.
Speaking of the local system, let's talk about the hospitals themselves. Because it's not just the people that are missing. The structure can be really confusing. We have a source here called the Living Hit Update that details a recent shift in how hospitals are classified.
Right, this is a bit technical, but I think you should stick with us because it really matters if you get sick. We used to have levels 1 through 4. Now it's been simplified to level 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so walk me through the patient journey. I'm a patient. I feel sick. Where do I go?
Okay, so level 1 is your basic community hospital. You go there for emergency care, a basic surgery like, say, an appendectomy, basic x-rays. It's the front line.
Okay, simple enough. But let's say I have a stroke. Or I need a really complex surgery.
Level 1 can't help you. You need a level 2. A level 2 hospital has an ICU, an intensive care unit. It has respiratory therapy. It has departmentalized units in pediatrics, cardiology, things like that.
And level 3?
Level 3 is the big leagues. These are your teaching and training hospitals. They have dialysis centers, physical rehab, blood banks. This is where you go for the really high-end specialized stuff.
The problem isn't the classification system itself. It's the map. It's where these hospitals are located.
Exactly. The high-level facilities, the level 3s, are heavily, heavily concentrated in the National Capital Region, in NCR. If you are in Manila, you have options. But if you're in, say, the ARMM, the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, your access to a level 3 facility is significantly lower.
So if I have a stroke in a remote province, I might be hours and hours away from a hospital that can actually treat me.
And that travel time, I mean, that is often the difference between life and death.
This connects directly to the public versus private divide, which feels almost like a caste system. I found this really striking in the sources. The notes say that public hospital staff are often highly skilled. Some of the best doctors are in public service. But the facilities are, and this is a quote, poorer quality.
While private facilities, which make up about 60% of the total hospitals, are much better equipped. They have the new MRI machines, the nice rooms, the shorter wait times.
Right.
But here's the kicker. This is the statistic that shows the real inequality. Only 30% of the population uses private hospitals as their main source of care.
So,
do the math for me.
60% of the hospitals are serving 30% of the people who have money.
And the other 70% of the people, the vast majority, are squeezing into the remaining 40% of hospitals, the public ones.
And that explains the overcrowding. That explains the beds in the hallways. That explains the 1 to 50 nurse ratio. It is a funnel, and meanwhile, the private sector is growing, driven partly by this idea of medical tourism, foreigners coming in for affordable care, affordable for them.
It creates a dual system, an apartheid of healthcare, really. One system for those who can pay, and one system for those who cannot. And the gap between them is widening.
So we've established the ghosts of the past. We've established the crisis of the present, the brain drain, the overcrowding, the inequality. Now comes the hard part. How do we fix this? How do we finance a future where we don't have abandoned hospitals and exported nurses?
This brings us to the heavy hitters, the boring stuff that actually saves lives. PhilHealth and the Universal Healthcare Law, the UHC.
The goal of UHC is so simple on paper. Every Filipino is protected from financial risk. Getting sick shouldn't make you poor.
A simple goal, but an incredibly complex execution. PhilHealth, the government insurer that was established in 1995, is the main vehicle for this. But PhilHealth has, let's just say, a complicated reputation.
That's putting it mildly.
Hmm.
So we have the Department of Health's financing strategy for 2023 to 2028. What are the key pillars here? I mean, how are they trying to turn this massive ship around?
They have four main strategic objectives. The first one is obvious but painful. Increase public funding. The government simply needs to invest more money to lower the out-of-pocket expenses for families.
Out of pocket, that's the killer. That's the family that has to sell their Carabao or take out a loan from a loan shark to pay for chemotherapy.
Exactly. The goal is to reduce that. Objective 2 is a really important shift in mindset. Focus on primary care. They are really pushing something called PhilHealth Consulta.
This is their outpatient package, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And think about it this way. Right now, the system is designed for sick care. You wait until you're dying, then you go to the hospital, and it costs a fortune.
Right.
Consulta is trying to shift the focus to healthcare. Go to the clinic early, get the checkup, get the maintenance meds for your blood pressure.
Because if you catch the diabetes early in a local clinic, you don't need the amputation in the level 3 hospital 10 years later. It's cheaper and obviously much better for the patient.
Precisely. Objective 3 is equitable financing, and Objective 4 is transparency, which is really about dealing with corruption, which is always the elephant in the room when we talk about PhilHealth.
But there's a fascinating, very specific strategy mentioned in the ThinkWell source regarding the private sector. This reads like a relationship drama.
The trust deficit.
Yeah. The private sector provides most of the services, but they are poorly engaged in public health goals, like family planning. And why? Because they don't trust the government to pay them.
It's absolutely true. I mean, imagine you're a private doctor, you see a PhilHealth patient, you treat them, you file the claim, and then you wait, and you wait.
60 days, 90 days. Sometimes the claim is denied because of a typo on a form.
So eventually you just say, you know what? No more PhilHealth patients, cash only. Exactly. And that hurts the poor patient who has their PhilHealth card but can't find a doctor who will accept it. So the proposed solution is the 4Ps MOA, Public-Private PhilHealth Partnership.
It's a mouthful of an acronym.
It is, but the mechanism is really crucial. It's a new legal framework designed to integrate private clinics into the public network. It promises a triple win.
Okay, break down the win for me.
Okay, so win for the government. They get expanded coverage without having to build new hospitals. They just tap into the existing private ones. Win for the private docs. They get free commodities like government-supplied contraceptives or medicines, and, this is key, guaranteed faster payments.
And the win for the patient?
No balance billing, meaning no surprise extra fees at the end. And less travel time because now you can go to the local private clinic instead of the faraway, overcrowded public hospital.
Does it work? Or is this just, a PowerPoint fantasy?
It's working in the pilot areas. The source specifically mentions Antique and Guimaras provinces. They saw these massive increases in family planning services, implants, and IUDs because private midwives and doctors finally felt safe enough to join the system.
That is a real glimmer of hope. It's like a policy ghostbuster. It's clearing out the old fears and the mistrust.
It is. It's about rebuilding trust. And trust, at the end of the day, is the currency of healthcare.
So let's look at where we stand right now. The 2025 updates. We've been pretty heavy on the doom and gloom. Are there any bright spots?
There are, definitely. We have to be fair. The Philippine General Hospital, PGH, is hiring 12,224 new healthcare workers in 2025.
Over 1,000 new hires. That is a massive infusion of personnel in one place.
It is, and a new cancer center is being built at PGH. That's huge for oncology care in the public sector.
PhilHealth is also expanding its coverage for heart surgeries and really pushing that Consulta package we mentioned. And the DOH is also getting smarter about expanding vaccination sites to malls and transport hubs.
That's the meet them where they are strategy. You shouldn't have to take a whole day off work just to get a vaccine for your kid. You should be able to get it at the train station on your way home.
But the threats linger.
Always. Rising healthcare costs are a global issue, but they hit so much harder here. And the environment mosquito-borne diseases like dengue and Japanese encephalitis are still a major risk, especially for travelers.
And the brain drain. That big neon sign is still flashing.
It won't stop just because PGH hired 1,000 people. As long as the salary differential is 10 times or 20 times what you can make abroad, the pull will always be there. We are fighting gravity.
So we've walked through the ruins of Clark with the spiders and the graffiti. We've looked back at the revolutionaries in the caves. We've dug into the financing spreadsheets and the trust deficit. What does this all mean when you put it together?
If we connect the haunted aspect back to the policy aspect, I think the conclusion is this. The abandoned hospitals, those ruins in Clark and Calipandan, they are monuments to discontinuity.
Discontinuity.
Yes. They are projects that were started with some kind of ambition, maybe for a war, maybe for profit, but they failed to be sustained. They are what happens when the system stops caring, or runs out of money, or the political focus just shifts. They are the ghosts of short-term thinking.
And the new UHC strategy, the 4Ps, MOA, the focus on primary care, these are all attempts to build a system that lasts.
Exactly. We're trying to build a system that doesn't leave more ruins behind. We're trying to exorcise the ghosts of the past by building a structure that can actually support the weight of the population.
And through it all, there is the Filipino health worker, from 1899 to 2025.
That is the constant, the resilience. Whether it's tending Sora, feeding soldiers in a barn, or an overworked nurse in PGH handling 50 patients today, the system often fails them. The buildings might literally crumble around them, but they rarely fail the patient.
That is a beautiful sentiment, but I have to say, it's also a deeply frustrating one. We shouldn't have to rely on their heroism to cover for systemic failure. Heroism is not a healthcare policy.
No, it isn't, and that is the danger. If we keep relying on their heroism, eventually they will just leave, and we will be left with nothing but the ghosts.
I want to leave our listeners with a final, provocative thought. We learned today that the Philippines supplies 25% of the world's international nurses. The world's health systems in the US, the UK, the Middle East, they rely on Filipino care.
We absolutely rely on them. If you are listening to this in London or Los Angeles, chances are a Filipino nurse has taken care of you or your family at some point.
But as we look at the abandoned corridors of Clark, those dark, heavy rooms, and then we look at the crowded, sweaty waiting rooms of PGH, we have to ask a hard question. Is the world taking too much? Are we extracting care from the Philippines like it's a natural resource and leaving the country to heal itself with ghosts?
That is the question, and I don't think we have the answer yet.
Next time you go for a checkup, just appreciate the complexity behind it. Look at the nurse, look at the building, and maybe spare a thought for the empty hospitals waiting in the rain. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay curious.